Nebraskans are pissed.
So Nebraska, which is a red state, is still scheduled to go broke in 6 months, and the residents are very unhappy about it.
I hear Nebraska's not too happy.
Alright, today we are diving into some serious economic turmoil happening in Nebraska and Wyoming, two traditional red states now facing major financial crises. From job shortage to potential bankruptcy, things are not looking good, and some people are realizing that the policy they supported may not be working in their favor. So what is happening? Let's break it all down.
Nebraskans are pissed. Bigly. The Askins are pissed. Nebraskans. No one wants to hear Farmer John with his butt crack showing, married to a Karen, complaining about losing your little farm when you voted for me. They don't feel sorry for you, and I don't need your votes anymore, so I don't care. Bigly. Nebraskans, what did you think was gonna happen? If all you workers were Mexicans and we got rid of all the Mexicans, who's gonna be your workers? Guess what? You can take a page from the book of the Native Americans, followed by the African Americans, Chinese Americans, Indian Americans. Listen, what we're gonna do is crash the economy so all the rich people can buy up everything for super dirt cheap, including your land, Nebraska farmer dude. I don't know. And once we buy it for dirt cheap, we will hire you to work on said land. Hello, this is a tale as old as time. We've done it so many times before. And the fact that you thought you were exempt is absolutely hilarious. Bigly, it's funny because you guys are really effing around and finding out. Decided to put a little pause on the tariff situation. Canada had a problem and we came in and helped them solve it. They had a problem that there were tariffs that they could not pay. And I said, I will be your savior. I will take the tariffs away. You're welcome. Thank you. Nebraska, I've actually sold Nebraska to Vladimir Putin. And we know I like to say Putin. That's my friend. In exchange for 2 new mail order brides that should be here by Thursday. One of them's gonna come with me into my forever cryo chamber where I will live in infamy and be the president of the United States for the rest of existence and time. Bigly. We're doing very well with Russia. Russia's really enjoying us and we're really enjoying Russia, and they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine right now. And I don't like the Ukraine guy because that guy is tan and he's kind of sexy. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't like that about him. Vladimir Putin is much more pale. He makes me look shiny and orange. And that's the kind of leadership that I really look up to. Bigly, I do. We're having a good time. Everyone's having a good time this pregnancy, and you guys keep trying to come and interfere with your world news and your disasters. We like a good disaster. It's good for the millionaires and billionaires because we can buy up everything dirt cheap, including labor, including you. We need a workforce. Too many of you farmers want to own your own land with government subsidies. Not anymore. You got what you voted for. Bigly, you got what you voted for.
So Nebraska, which is a red state, is still scheduled to go broke in 6 months, and the residents are very unhappy about it. And they had this to say.
So are we going to sit at home on the couch and let these billionaires control the country? Hell no. We are the poor people. We're a red state.
Now, that was a 5-minute video that I cut down to that about 10-second clip that I just showed you, because what that man said in that clip was so significant. It really, really stuck out to me. The part where he said, we're a red state, really, really stuck out to me, and further reinforces when we always say that many people who voted for this administration believed that the policies of this administration would not affect they asses. Y'all fucked around, and now it's time for y'all to find out. Y'all voted for hate, even with the possibility that you might go hungry, even with the possibility that it might affect your health. Y'all voted for hate. Congratulations on getting what you voted for.
I hear Nebraska's not too happy, and that a lot of them are facing bankruptcy after they can't find people to work. A lot of people aren't coming to work right now. worried that they're going to get picked up by ICE. And there was even one family that said they had a 300-year-old ranch that they may lose. And I said, 300 years old ranch? That had been 1725. I wonder what the Native Americans thought about that one. But I don't know, Nebraska. Maybe they'll give you some of the money from Illinois that he kept. I'm not sure. I mean, y'all voted for him. So maybe he'll give you all that money. All right, Nebraska, I hope things work out for you, and I hope your state don't go bankrupt. I hope not. You know, or get out there and get working. The unemployment office, though, that's where you go if people need jobs. Just go to the unemployment office and tell them you're looking for workers. And I'm sure they'd be able to get something figured out for you over there. But, yeah, good luck, Nebraska. I hope everyone does well. Bye.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on with the tariffs and what's going on with the state of Nebraska, which I am from. Okay, I'm noticing a trend right now of a lot of things. When people talk about Nebraska, some people are saying that their stuff is getting removed, it's getting banned, it's whatever. Okay, but I want to talk about something. First thing I want to talk about is, Nebraska is going to go bankrupt in about 6 months. Nebraska, the state that relies on their agriculture to sustain the way of living. Okay, Nebraska. There's a lot of farmland in Nebraska, and Nebraska has been notoriously Republican for quite a long time. There's only subsets of cities that ever really vote Democratic or anything like that, like in Omaha, and so forth. But the Nebraska, the place that relies on their agriculture for any type of profit, is going bankrupt. One of our senators, Pete Ricketts, is kissing boots right now to the Trump administration as we are heading towards bankruptcy in about 6 months. I'm sure you have heard people talk about it, but I want to make it clear that right now, even though my state is on the decline and we have 6 months before we file bankruptcy, I don't want to hear a single one of y'all getting on this app right now trying to monetize off you regretting your vote. I don't want to hear it, because your racism. One, you, somebody who owns farmland, who relies on migrant workers to do all of these jobs, because you don't want to hire an American because, as you stated multiple times, that we're lazy, slow, and we want too much money. The same people who rely on migrant workers turned around and voted against their best interests, and now you have ICE doing sweeps and shit over here on a regular. And you're running around complaining. Now you're going to town halls. You're screaming. You're yelling. You're crying. You're fussing. For what? For something that you did? This is not the F around and find out anymore. Okay? What happens every time when it comes to Republicans is y'all constantly vote against your best interests and then want people who have socialist ideals and mindsets to come in and fix it so you can benefit, and then turn around and complain.
What's up, TikTok? It's me, it's Jeremy. It's March 7th, 2025. And so there's a viral trend going on right now, or a category, and it's called, Do You Care About Nebraska? Or, something along those lines. And it has to do with the farmers that are going to potentially lose their farms and their family businesses due to policies changing. And certain government funding being retracted. And so there's this trend going, do you care? Do you care? And, yes, we care. Of course, people care. We care about everyone. But where's the self-accountability coming from? Okay? Because I'm going to point some things out. You guys sold us out a long time ago. Farmers in the United States of America, you sold your fellow citizens out for greed, for money, for subsidies. You've allowed poison to be sprayed all over our food for subsidies, okay? You have given the jobs to the illegal aliens, as they're called, instead of paying your fellow citizens a fair living wage, so you could live on your private acres and have all your big toys and have your own private food that wasn't being sprayed with these chemicals. See, karma is coming home to roost for everyone on this planet. Okay, trust me on that. This is the great trials and tribulations that the good old book talks about. And we're all going to be judged for our lives. Okay, now all is already forgiven. I said that at 144, okay? But that doesn't mean that you're not going to face your karma, okay? You're going to have to go through the cause and effect of decisions that you made for your money and for your greed and for your family's big old better lifestyle. Farmers are the hardest working salt of the earth people we have. It's the first job that matters. It's the only job that matters, is tilling the lands and not having to go chase down wild animals and hunt to eat. Agriculture, seeds that reproduce, trees and fruits and things that reproduce us more abundance than we know what to do with. But you sold it all away. You gave it to the corporations, you gave it to the government, and you sold us out. And now you want to cry out for help because the illegals are leaving your farms because they don't want to get deported, and you're not going to get your subsidies from big government. Okay? Everyone in this world needs to start growing food now. You need to take back that responsibility. You need to be growing something. I don't care if it's in a bucket. I don't care if it's in a gallon milk jug. Plant a seed. Learn what it means to eat your own food that you have grown, that you have taken the time to nurture and feed. And it's not that complicated, guys. I mean, nature really does take care of us if we get out of its way and just kind of help it do its natural thing. Okay? Instead of being disruptive and destructive. Can we just be? All right? I'm telling you, farmers, I know what you're going through. It's going to be a collapse. It's going to be a government takeover. The Bill Gates and China and all them buying up all the farmland. That's a whole nother conversation, right? But as far as you crying right now on social media about you losing your big old acres, your kingdoms within, rural America, you did this to yourself by the decisions your families have made for the last couple generations. You sold us out. You poisoned our food, and now karma's coming home to roost. I'm sorry I have to call it as it is. Yes, the government's evil. Yes, they're doing this on purpose. Yes, they're coming for your lands. But maybe if you had karma on your side, maybe you would have spiritual protection right now. Because I'm sure the people that did it the right way, I'm sure the Amish, the homesteaders, stuff like that, they're going to be protected. The walls of Jericho will be put up around lands that did it the right way. But if you are one of these people I'm talking about, one of these farms that sold us out a long time ago to this corrupt government, and now you're crying that the corrupt government is coming for you, that's karma, baby. My name's Jeremy. It's March 7, 2025. Big news coming up with the crypto summit today, the White House crypto summit. So go ahead and keep your eyes on that, guys. And we'll be making videos throughout the day. I love you guys. Please get ready to help one another. Food shortages are coming. Supply chains are going to be disrupted. Farms are being affected. So start growing some food, start stocking up, and be ready to help somebody. Because like I said, we're all being judged. See you in the next video.
Wyoming can't pay its bills. And the reason for that is their economy is shrinking. The freeze on foreign workers and the deportations have stopped people from coming to work, so cattle ranchers don't have people to work on their farms. Just overall, the economy is collapsing as a result of Donald Trump's trade policies and Donald Trump's policies overall, his economic policies. And so as you watch Wyoming, just remember that that's the first domino. There will be others. There'll be other states that are in a similar situation. It might be Florida next as their real estate collapses. And of course, they started to experience this earlier on because of Florida policies about foreign workers. And so as the U.S. economy shrinks, the U.S. economy is going to shrink. We're going to see a situation where the U.S. government may not be able to meet its debt obligations. They will not be able to meet their day-to-day operational obligations. They already struggle to meet that. They borrow, right, to be able to cover it. But as their economy shrinks, their capacity to borrow is going to become significantly reduced. And when they are not in a position to actually meet their debt obligations, period, we are going to see significant problems. And if you were around in the 1970s and you remember what New York was like in the 1970s, New York was basically bankrupt in the 1970s. They sought a federal government bailout, never came. And it was a miserable situation for people. You can get a feel of where things are going to go and how it's going to be with a shrinking U.S. economy. As the U.S. looks inward, they will, they may say, look, we are self-reliant, and they may be self-reliant, but then they lose all of their business interests outside of the U.S., as we see right now with the boycotts happening around the world. So we'll see a situation where the U.S. is going to discover, unfortunately, a whole new way of living with much less. And it's going to be hurtful for Americans. I understand it. It will be awful, particularly for poorer people. Middle-class people will sink into poverty. People who are upper middle class may have to discover frugality. And it's going to affect the world overall. It's just the way it's going to play out. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at the historic parallels, if you go back to the unfolding of the Great Depression, if you look at the end of the Spanish flu, and you look at just previous downturns, this will be far worse than a downturn, right? Because most previous downturns are something that was either cyclical in the economy or because of some flawed investment scheme like we saw with subprime mortgages. Those were things that were not really structural, and that the rest of the economy was relatively strong, resilient, and could deal with it. But if you look at this, when it's really just structure, just destroying the underlying structure of the economy, it's the type of thing that can happen, and we see a lot of things happening much more quickly than they did in previous historic examples. So I would imagine, within 20 months from now, we are going to see, not just Wyoming, a lot of other states in significant financial problems, cities facing significant financial problems as the tax base shrinks, as the economy shrinks. And overall, the U.S. federal government no longer able to generate the income that it needs to be able to do the things that it needs. So if you think the cuts that are happening now are significant, they're the ones that are triggering a lot of this, right? Taking all those federal employees out of the workforce and taking away their paychecks and having those paychecks being spent in the community, that's a significant thing. But if you think that's bad, just wait until you see the snowball effect that happens when the feedback loop that happens when more and more people lose their jobs. And it will happen quickly, because everything seems to happen more quickly these days than it did before. These are troubling times.
So Nebraska, a solid red state, is now on the brink of going broke, and its residents are unhappy about it. And let's be real, this was inevitable. When people vote based on hate instead of policy that actually support their well-being, this is exactly what happens. The guy in that clip said something that really stood out. We are on a red state. That is the key phrase here. Because for years, red states have voted for policy that cut social safety nets, favor corporations over workers, and patronize culture wars over economic stability. And now, here we are, Nebraska is looking at financial crisis in the next 6 months. And people are struggling to find work because, surprise, surprise, businesses can't find enough workers. Why? Because Trump immigration policy and crackdowns have left them without the labor force they depend on. Think about it. This is the same Nebraska where many residents supported Trump's policy, believing that they wouldn't be personally affected. They thought the pain would only be felt by immigrants, by blue states, by those people, but now reality is hitting them hard. You can't build an economy on nothing. You can't run farms, factories, and businesses without workers, and when you vote for policy that remove the very people who keep the economy running, you suffer the consequences. And it's not just Nebraska. Look at Wyoming. They can't pay their bills either. Their economy is shrinking because foreign workers aren't there anymore. Cattle ranchers can't find people to help on their farms. Their economy is collapsing under the weight of Trump's trade and immigration policy. This is what happens when you buy into the lie that American first means pushing everyone else out while somehow still expecting everything to function smoothly. And let's be honest, this isn't just about immigration. It's about how deep the economy mismanagement goes. Because what we are seeing here is the first domino Wyoming is already struggling. Nebraska is next. Florida is right behind them with its real estate market in free fall. These states have spent years attacking workers' rights, blocking wage increases, cutting public services, and now they are reaping their results. And here is the thing. The US economy doesn't operate in a vacuum. States rely on federal funding, on trade, on movement between states. But when the national economy starts shrinking, when unemployment rises, when people stop spending money, when businesses fail, everyone feels it. And that is exactly what is happening right now. And let's talk about the federal government's ability to respond to this crisis. Right now, the US is already struggling to meet its debt obligations. The government has been borrowing to keep things running, but as the economy shrinks, borrowing becomes harder. And when the government reaches a point where it can't meet its debt obligations, we are talking about a full-blown economic disaster. Think about New York in the 1970s. The city was practically bankrupt. They begged for a federal bailout and it never came. Crime went up, infrastructure crumbled, and people suffered. That is what happens when an economy collapses. And right now, the US as a whole is heading toward that kind of crisis. And I know some people will say, well, just get people back to work. But where? In Nebraska, where businesses can't find workers because of deportations. In Wyoming, where the cattle industry is collapsing. You can't just snap your fingers and fix years of bad policy. These problems were created by the very people who are now acting shocked that they exist. And the worst part, instead of addressing the root causes, red states will keep doubling down on the same failed policy. They will blame immigrants, they will blame the left, they will blame anyone except the people who made these decisions in the first place. And meanwhile, their own residents will suffer. So Nebraska, Wyoming, Florida, good luck. You all voted for this. Now you get to live with it. If you find this video informative, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest stories shaping our world. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Do you see more red states heading for economic collapse? Let's talk about it. See you on in the next one.